Hey everyone, Koumintang here again. Time for another episode of Koumy's Garage. Today we're doing something fairly simple. I'm doing an oil change on my truck here, and I figured it'd be some good content for anybody who's never done an oil change before and is wanting to learn. It's a great way to save money so you don't have to take it to the shop and have them do it. What I've got here is an oil filter for my truck and some 5W30 oil. Okay, so what you're going to want to know when you're getting your oil in your filter for your vehicle, when you go up to the parts store, they're going to ask you a few questions. 1, what year it is. 2, what type of vehicle it is. And usually 3, what engine size you got. Now, if you don't know what year your vehicle is, there's a few ways you can tell. One is right down here on the door sticker, right there. Mine says 5 of 99. That's a good way to get you close, usually. That's the manufacturer's date. Not all vehicles that are manufactured in 99 is going to be a 99 vehicle. Some of them is going to be a 2000. Now, mine is a 99, and it is Dodge Ram 1500. Usually, you've got an emblem on the side of your vehicle or on the back of your vehicle that tells what it is. The next thing you want to know, what engine size you have. Alright, to figure this out, there's going to be a white sticker underneath your hood, either on this cross member right here, or it'll be up on your hood itself. But what you're looking for is your liters, right there, 5.9 liter. That tells what engine size I have in my vehicle. Okay, some stuff that you're going to need when you're doing an oil change on your vehicle. First thing you're going to need is going to be a wrench for the drain plug. Make sure you have the right size. Can and will strip the drain plug bolt out. Next thing you're going to need, oil filter wrench. Both of these can be picked up at your local auto parts store. Something else you're going to need is a bucket to drain any of your fluids into. That's what I use. And then with some vehicles, especially if you're working on a car, you're going to need a jack and jack stands. Yeah, you're going to need a jack and jack stands. Luckily, my truck, as you can see, it sits fairly high off the ground. I can just slide right underneath there. I don't have to jack it up or anything. When you're jacking it up, I need to tell you to use extreme caution. Make sure you're jacking up in the jack points and putting jack stands underneath of it, so if it does fall off the jack, you're not going to get crushed and killed. If you need to know where your jack points are on your vehicle, your owner's manual should show where the jack points are. Alright, let's get underneath this vehicle and start getting the oil drained. Okay, now that we're underneath the truck, you're going to need to locate a couple things. 1 is your drain plug, and 2 is your filter. My drain plug is located right here. And my filter is not too far away. You see it right there. Alright, what you want to do, just grab your wrench, get it on there, and break the drain plug free. Once you've done that, just go ahead and back her out. Don't lose the drain plug. Try to guesstimate where that oil's going to land so you can get it right into the bucket. Now I'm probably going to have to empty this bucket one time. And look at that, straight down in there, no problems. But I'm probably going to have to empty the bucket one time because it's going to fill up quick and my truck holds quite a bit of oil. Alright, when you got pretty much all the oil drained out, let's go ahead and throw that drain plug back in there. Make sure this is tight when you put it back in there. The last thing you want is to be driving down the road, your drain plug vibrates out of your engine, you lose all your oil, then you're buying a new engine for your vehicle. Just get that tight real quick. Alright, now that it's tight, wipe off any excess oil off around that bolt, just so you don't have it dripping down anywhere. And then you need to take your oil filter off. I have to get repositioned so I can do that. If Be right back. Okay, now that we're repositioned, what you're going to do is take your oil filter wrench, slide it around, and give it a little turn, nice and slow, so you ain't got oil leaking out all over you. As soon as it is turned, then you can start taking it off by hand. Again, make sure your bucket's going to catch that oil. You'll see it come down here in 1 second. As soon as that seal's busted, there it goes. And you're just going to wait for this to finish draining out. Once it's mostly out, go ahead and finish taking it off. And you just put that filter right there in that bucket that you got your oil in. And of course I made a little bit of a mess, but I had cardboard down, so it's alright. But you want to get all that oil out of there. And this is the last piece that's actually holding oil in. So once that's finished draining, start putting the filter back on. Okay, got the oil drained. We got the filter off. Now what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to put a little bit of oil around the O-ring. Right there. Right there. You want to put a little bit of oil around that O-ring. That's just going to help it seal back up when you put it on there. That way when you're putting it up on there, it doesn't catch the metal or bind in any way. So you put that up on there, or you put that oil on there, it'll help it seal up. Alright, we're going to get this oil filter put back up in there. We'll see in a sec. Alright, now that we have the oil drained out of this, one thing you want to check is always make sure the old O-ring from the last oil filter is not there. If the O-ring is there, it's going to cause a leak and you're going to spill all your oil out on the ground. Now, just put this up on there, spin it into place. Now, some people want to use an oil filter wrench to put this back on there. I never have, and I do not like to. One, it causes it to get too tight, when you can just put it up by hand and tighten it as tight as it will go. That's going to be tight enough for the oil to keep from leaking out. When you use an oil filter wrench, it makes it extremely hard for the next person, especially if it's you, to get that oil filter off. So now that we got our oil filter up there, got our drain plug tightened, we're ready to put some new oil in this thing. Okay, now, got all that stuff done under there, we're back up top. First thing you're going to want to do is locate where your oil cap is. Oil cap will usually say oil on it or have this little emblem, or it'll have the weight. But you'll see the words engine oil on it usually. Just give that a spin, take that off of there. Next thing you want to do is find out where your engine oil dipstick is. Again, it'll either be yellow in color usually, or it'll say engine oil right on it. Right there. Okay? Go ahead and pull that out with some. You're going to need to know where your level's at. Okay, something I didn't mention when I was going through the tools. Another thing you want to make sure you got, an oil funnel. This keeps you from pouring any extra engine oil down onto the engine, causing it to burn off when it hits those hot manifolds when you're driving. Alright, what you're going to do is you're just going to set your funnel right down there, and your typical car is going to take at least 4 quarts of oil. If you need to find out how much oil your car takes when you are at the parts store getting your oil, all you got to do is ask them. They'll know, or they should be able to look it up. You just put your oil in there. I always squeeze the bottle, it just helps it go out faster. Not always a good idea. There are some cars, if you do that, you'll overflow the valve cover. But mine, I know, takes Well, it's either it takes 5 or 6. I can't never remember which. So I always start off with 4. And just go ahead and dump all 4 of those right down in there. Now, a good rule of thumb, if you're not sure, especially if you got a small car, put 3 quarts of engine oil in it, and then check your dipstick. Find out where your level's at. I'll explain your dipstick here in 1 second once I get this 4th quart in here on mine. Okay, that's 4 quarts. So, let's go to the dipstick. Okay. Now we've got our dipstick pulled out. What you're going to do, wipe that dipstick all the way off so you're not getting a false reading. Stick it back down in the tube. All the way. Wait a second. And then pull it back out. Now, if you look on your dipstick, right there, I don't know how well you can see this. Give me 1 second, let me readjust this camera. Now, when you're reading your dipstick, most dipsticks have the words add and safe on them. Anything at the add line or below, you need to add oil. And if your oil is reading in the safe zone, that means you have enough oil in your vehicle. Now, a lot of times you'll find it where if you'll find it down here near the add line, go ahead and put a quart in, because it's not going to hurt anything. Now, the way you tell, you stick this down in there. You make sure your dipstick's cleaned off. Stick it back down in the hole, all the way down. You wait a second, and then you pull it back out. And you will see, I don't know how good of a shot, but you'll see the line where your oil is sitting on the dipstick, usually. Yeah, right there. Mine's sitting at the safe zone. But that's also because it ran down a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I am going to put another quart let me get it back up over here. I'm going to set another quart of oil in my truck, because I already know it's going to take another quart. Okay. Now that I got all the oil in my truck, this is a very, very important step. You don't want to make a mess. Pull your pull your funnel out and put your cap back on. Okay. Now we got the cap on, the filter on, oil in the vehicle, and the drain plug tight. Always make sure you double check these things. If you don't, you could very well make a mess. Go ahead and start your vehicle. You're going to let it run just for a few minutes. If you got an oil pressure gauge, You're going to look for that gauge to come up to where it's at normal operating pressure. You got an oil pressure light, you're waiting for that light to go off. As soon as you're at the right pressure, or your light's off, you can go ahead and shut it off. And then you need to check your oil. Always double check, make sure you have enough oil in the vehicle before you do this. Set this down real quick. Okay. Pull that dipstick tube out, or dipstick out of your tube. Wipe it off. Stick it back in. Pull it out and check. Again, you're looking for your line to be in the safe mark. Which mine is. Now, while you're in here doing your oil change, some things you may want to check. Your air filter. Make sure your air filter's clean. I've already checked mine previously. Mine's good. But you want to check your air filter. Check your transmission fluid. If yours has a transmission fluid dipstick, most vehicles, you want to check this with the vehicle in neutral. So make sure you put chalk blocks down so your vehicle don't roll away. You check it with the engine on and the vehicle in neutral. Again, I've already checked mine, and mine is good. Some things you want to keep an eye on. Well, also, check your washer fluid. I could use some. Check your brake fluid. Usually you've got a full and an add mark on here. You want to make sure you're full. And again, your power steering fluid, check it the same way. Now, something you want to look at while you're working on your vehicle, especially when you're under the hood, is you look down here and you check out your belt. Get zoomed in. You want to make sure there's no cracks or anything in those ribs. If you get cracks, you're going to need to replace that belt before it breaks on you. Another thing, you look around, check to see if you have any leaks or anything, any major puddles underneath the vehicle. One more thing you want to check, and always make sure your engine is cold when you check this. Check your antifreeze. Because if you're low, you could overheat your engine. You can't really see it. Mine's right there at the top. But if you're low, you can overheat your engine. If you've only got water in there, in the winter time, your engine or your water can freeze, causing you to overheat your engine. But that about sums it up. Those are all the things you want to check when you're doing an oil change on your own vehicle. Like I said, key points to remember. Make sure your drain plug is tight. Make sure your oil filter is tight. Make sure your oil cap is on. Any of those three things could cause you to buy a new engine. Like I said, this is just standard maintenance for any vehicle. It's my personal belief everybody who drives should be doing this at least once so they know how to. Plus, this gives them an idea of what they need to look for when they're working on their vehicles. If you guys got any questions, put them down in the comment section below. I'll make sure I get them answered. Drop me a like on this video if you enjoyed it. And until next time, we'll see you at the garage. One more thing before I close this off is a lot of times people will ask where they can dispose of their oil or what they're supposed to do with their old oil. What I suggest, let me get the lighting better. What I suggest is when you pick up your oil and your filter from your parts store, ask them if they take used oil. A lot of times you can find at least one parts store that disposes of used oil for their customers. If you can't, find out if any of the local garages around you will take your used oil just so you can get rid of it. Most of them will. I know in the shops that I've worked in, a lot of them's had oil burning heaters or oil burning furnaces to keep the shop warm. So that way they're still using the old oil for another purpose, and they're burning it off safely. What I always do, as you can see, there's my bucket that I emptied my oil off into. That bucket's not too sturdy, so I always find I've got a 5-gallon bucket. Again, these can be picked up anywhere. I empty it off into a 5-gallon bucket with a lid. That way I can transport it safely. So, do not just dump your oil off onto the ground. It is bad for the environment, plus you can get some hefty fines if you get caught doing so. Make sure you dispose of the oil properly. Again, until next time, we'll see you in the garage.